welcome you to the opening ceremony of the NBA Section on Legal Practice Annual Conference with the theme, Legal Practice Without Borders. Now, we have a stellar array of very distinguished personalities here this morning, but before we go into all that, I would like to invite, the usual practice is that we invite older lawyers to lead us in the opening NBA prayer. This morning, please join me in inviting Mina Obete of the NBA Abuja branch to lead us in the opening prayer. Please clap for her as she comes up stage.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, the NBA president, and my distinguished colleagues here. Please, would like to take the NBA prayer, but I'll please like to crave your indulgence to stand up for the prayer. Thank you. The NBA prayer. Almighty God, our Creator, we pray you to be with us in all our deliberations and to direct our endeavors so that we shall continue in all humility to glorify thy name and do that which is right and just for our profession, its members, our fellow men, and our country. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. We may be seated, please. Thank you. On behalf of the Section on Legal Practice, we would like to apologize for starting this program 30 minutes behind schedule. Do pardon us, please. Now, may I go on to recognize everybody here is special, everybody here is important, but we do have another protocol to set. So we have in our midst the representative of the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Honorable Justice Olukayode Ariwoola, Grand Commander of the Order of Nigeria, in the person of Honorable Justice Salisu Garba, retired, the Administrator of the National Judicial Institute. We also have the representative of the Chief Judge of the Federal Capital Territory, Honorable Justice Hussaini Barba Yusuf, in the person of Honorable Justice Edward Okwe. He will be joining us. Thank you. Now, of course, you know that when it comes to anything concerning the Nigerian Bar Association, our chief host is our very distinguished President of the NBA. So please join me in welcoming the tallest man in the room, President Yakubu Chonoko Mikiawu, OONCON. Thank you. The host for this particular conference of the Section of Legal Practice is, of course, no other person than the section chair, Chief Ferdinand Obi, KSGSAN. Now, we have a number of distinguished section council members. We have a past section chair, Mr. Shenwa Bimbola, Senator of Nigeria. I also recognize in the room the following section council members. I see Mrs. Boma Labi, Senior Council of Nigeria. I see Mr. Tonye Kukubo, Senior Council of Nigeria. I see Professor Wahab Egbewole, Senior Council of Nigeria. And I see my auntie, Folashade Ali. We also have a number of very distinguished members of the judiciary. So I do see Honorable Justice Ejembi Eko, retired Justice of the Supreme Court. And I see Honorable Justice Idaketime Q, Judge of the High Court of Rivers State. We also have a very distinguished member of the current National Assembly in the person of Senator Osita Izunaso. Thank you. Of course, being a legal event, we are surrounded by very senior, very distinguished legal practitioners. I see and recognize Mrs. Nella Andem Ewa, SAN, former Attorney General of Cross River State. I see Mr. Isaiah Broderick Bozimore, former Honorable Attorney General of Delta State. Thank you. Of course, I see in the room sitting quietly Mr. Jonathan Taidi, former General Secretary of the Nigerian Bar Association. Now, I will come back to you with more recognitions as people come in, but I will now hand over to my co-compere to take the next item. Thank you.
Let's put our hands together for him. I think it was Chinua Achebe in a non-published script that said, "It is an irony that as lawyers we thrive on territorialism and clearly marked jurisdictions, yet we seek to open up borders that we created by fencing others out in the hope that they may not fence us out." Today we are here to follow the law as a traveler, exploring the hiding places of injustice so that the world may become a courtroom without walls. My job is simple: to bring to us one man who had gone in 2009 to study a course in the United States on foreign investment agreements and investor to stake dispute to prepare himself for this job that is simple. He is, of course, the chairman of the 2023 Conference Planning Committee. He's a scholar. Some say he's a politician because he was one time a local government chairman and he contested to be governor. He's also a legal consultant to the House of Representatives. But today we see him as a special lawyer. Let's welcome Paul Harris Adakole Ogbole, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Please put your hands together for him as he comes up to speak to us this morning, to welcome us. In the past few months, he's been working hard, and someone told me that he also made it possible for 50 young lawyers to be part of this conference. Please put your hands together for him.
I understand the protocol has been established, but I will still, I know that I'm not as tall as my president, so if I still stand on the protocol, there's still a lot of room ahead. I would nonetheless pay respect and acknowledge my Lord, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Honorable Justice Ariwola, represented by no less a person than the administrator of the Nigerian Judicial Institute and our former Chief Judge of the FCT, Justice Salisu Garba. I welcome the representative of the Chief Judge of FCT, the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court of Nigeria, my Lord Justice HMBA Eko of the Supreme Court, retired, the President of the Nigerian Bar Association, our own YC Meikyo, OON, I'm told that is owner of Nigeria. That now comes before SAN. Mr. Meikyo, we thank you so very much and you're welcome. The chairman of our own section on legal practice, Chief Ferdinand Obi, SAN, our own sister and former President of the Commonwealth, also owner of Nigeria, Boma Alabi, SAN. Other eminent senior advocates of Nigeria, council members, our own Senator Osita Izunaso, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd also acknowledge the chairman of the branches in Abuja. I was in church yesterday when this program, the second or third day into this program, and we had a Thanksgiving, and the Reverend Father said to us, your theme for this year's conference is legal practice without borders. And for him, borders meant rich or poor. And he said, look, don't create a border between the rich and the poor. So as you are representing the rich, please also represent the poor. Don't create borders distinguishing religions or ethnicity. Ensure that your practice encompasses all of this. But as I walked away from the church, I said to myself, that also means that interpreting this our theme, we should bear in mind that we can also represent one set of parties, in this case, and maybe another set of parties, maybe APC in this set of cases, and CPC or PDP or MPN in another set of parties in another case. So no restrictions, no borders. And I said to myself, it also means that we should not also restrict ourselves to charging clients in Naira alone. Let us also charge clients in other currencies. Now, on behalf of the CPC, I am pleased to welcome you to the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, for the NBA Section on Legal Practice 2023 Annual Conference. I'd like to thank the chief hosts of this conference, the President of the Nigerian Bar Association, our own YC Meikyo OON SAN, for providing all the necessary support for this day. Mr. President, we are grateful. The theme of this year's conference is legal practice without borders. The focus of the conference is to examine the practice of law in Nigeria in an even globalized and internationalized environment. This is the back of the imperative to explore new areas of legal practice and practice law within globally accepted ethical boundaries. In particular, the conference will x-ray the future of legal services in Nigeria and beyond, its opportunities, its threats, and profile practical solutions thereto. The conference will also examine topical issues such as exploring the frontiers of dispute resolution in investment matters in Nigeria, organ donation and transplantation under Nigerian law, legal practice issues on migration and immigration, tyranny and dictatorship of election petition, transformation of legal practice in Nigeria, and a host of other inciting topics for the conference that will stimulate our interest and yet broaden our understanding in these focused areas of law. We have assembled an array of eminent personalities and panelists to critically examine the above topics for each of the sessions and share their knowledge with us. Other stimulating topics selected for this year's conference will be examined by eminent faculty, distinguished jurists, legal practitioners like yourselves, the academia in subject matters. We are optimistic that the knowledge shared will contribute immensely to improving our individual practices, the legal profession, and the justice delivery system in Nigeria as a whole. This year's conference also features the Young Litigators Debate. This is an opportunity for our young colleagues to demonstrate knowledge around chosen topics. This debate has marked out a cash prize and other exciting rewards. We invite our younger lawyers and colleagues to show interest as the criteria will be rolled out by the committee. The conference dinner will hold at A-Class. A-Class is a popular venue for legal activities in Abuja here. So that's where our dinner will hold. An array of entertainers and activities that will scintillate your evening will be accompanying the dinner. So we look forward to it and we hope that you will enjoy your stay there. I'd like to thank my Lord, the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, who has been very supportive. He gave us bosses. He has been very accommodating. My Lord, the Chief Judge of the FCT High Court, who hosted us to a cocktail last night and has also been very supportive and has also graciously asked that courts and lawyers who have cases in their courts should please be excused to attend our proceedings today. I would like to thank my Lord, the President of the Industrial Court, my Lord, the President of the Court of Appeal, and of course, my Lord, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, who again is represented by no less a person than the administrator of the Nigerian Judicial Institute. I am grateful to my colleagues. Chief amongst them is Chief Tonye Kokurubo, the alternate chair for this conference, and members of our conference committee. I do not leave out the co-opted members, who are made up of lawyers, eminent lawyers from within and around Abuja, chairmen of our various branches around Abuja and its environs and neighboring states, who have contributed immensely in ensuring that the conference really holds and that we have the best of time here. Once again, I welcome our special guests, speakers, delegates to the MBA section on legal practice annual conference. Please make the most of the opportunity. You're most welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please, can you give him a dollar-denominated clap as he returns to his seat? Thank you. Now, we are in Abuja. It is an event of the bar. The next item is welcome remarks by one of the 4 NBA branch chairmen in Abuja. Before I invite him, I would like to recognize in our midst the chairman of the other NBA branches in Abuja, Mr. Paul Daudu of the NBA Buhari branch. Thank you. Sir Augustine Ibolo of the Nyanya Karu branch. Thank you. And Mazi Obioma Ezenwobodo of the NBA Garki branch. We also have a few former branch chairmen from around the country. I did see my friend Victor Frank Briggs, one-time NBA Port Harcourt branch chairman and immediate past third vice president of the Nigerian Bar Association. I saw his successor in office, Prince Inyekwere, past chairman of the NBA Port Harcourt branch. Of course, I stand before you as one-time chairman of the NBA Lagos branch many years ago, the largest branch of the NBA. I must welcome Mr. Ade Adegbite, the serving General Secretary of the Nigerian Bar Association. Please clap for him. He came in after we started. Thank you. I now invite my good friend who is competing with the NBA president in terms of height, but not in terms of wealth, the current chairman of the NBA Abuja branch, Mazi Afam Okeke, to welcome us in a special way.
My Lord, the Honorable, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Honorable Justice Olukayode Ariwola, GCON, ably represented by my Lord, Honorable Justice Salisu Garuba, retired, former Honorable the Chief Judge of the High Court of the FCT, and now Administrator of the NJI, the 31st President of the Nigerian Bar Association, YC Mekiao, OON, SAN. At this point, let me stand on the already established protocol. On behalf of the Nigerian Bar Association Abuja and the other 4 branches in the Federal Capital Territory, Buhari branch, Gwagwarada branch, Gariki branch, and the Nyanyakaro branch, I welcome you all to this year's section on legal practice annual conference with the theme, Legal Practice Without Borders. This year's theme speaks to the ever-dynamic landscape of legal practice and presents a wake-up call for us to utilize the opportunities and innovations that we need to define our niche and develop a borderless practice. This conference will afford us the opportunity to exchange knowledge, cross-fertilize ideas, and most importantly, reflect on the evolving nature of the legal profession. As legal professionals, we occupy frontline roles in global transformation, address cross-border disputes, transcending geographical limitations to serve our clients, and tackle transnational legal issues. The 2023 SLP conference presents a unique opportunity for us to come together and engage in meaningful conversations. It is a chance for us to explore the emerging challenges and opportunities in our profession and collectively envision a future that aligns with our shared values to raise the bar of excellence in our legal practice. I am confident in the leadership abilities of the SLP Council and the Conference Planning Committee. I am assured that exciting and intellectually stimulating sessions have been lined up to address our thoughts and concerns on issues within our practice circles. While we share lessons and best practices, please do not forget to use this opportunity to explore the beautiful city of Abuja, the center of unity. It may also be the break that you need to build your social networks and widen your practice net. I encourage everyone to actively engage in the conversations, build new relationships, and seize the opportunity to collaborate on future endeavors. In conclusion, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to the organizers of this conference for this opportunity, to the sponsors and participants, and every other person who have made this event possible. I commend you all. I once again welcome you to this gathering of legal mind. I sincerely hope that this conference will inspire you to practice law without borders, to think globally, and to make a lasting impact in our ever-increasingly interconnected world. I wish us all a memorable experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, can we give him another round of applause? The chairman said we should explore Abuja. Let me, however, advise, if you have any relation around Yanya area, please don't visit them today. Because if you go now, by the time you are coming back, we'll have been done with everything for today because of the hold-up. The next item is a very important one, and it is to invite one who is an academic. It was he, the first person who invited me to teach a student when he was lecturing at IFE. He wanted me to teach them English. And that day I was not ready. I just told the students, it's a creative writing class. Can you just assume that you are in a war situation, and from your war experience, write for me a short story? I noticed everybody was writing except one young man. So I went to him and I said, I told you to assume that you are in a war situation, and from your war experience, write for me a short story. Why are you not writing? So the boy looked at me and said, sir, honestly, I died as soon as the war started. Let me therefore welcome the former chairman of the Midwest Bar Forum, who's also right now concluding an illustrious tenure as chairman of the MBA session of legal practice. Let's welcome Chief Ferdinand Obi, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Please put your hands together for him.
I'm tempted to stand on existing protocol, but there's a man coming who will speak after my speech. If I overstand on existing protocol, that stand will collapse by the time he comes out to speak. He's smiling. He knows that I'm referring to him because the man is so tall that he dwarfs every other person. It makes you look short. I used to think I was a tall man until we elected YC Mekiao as president of the Nigerian Bar Association. Please, can we just give him a round of applause before I start? Because it's the reason why we are here. He's our chief host. My Lord, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, ably represented by my Lord, Honorable Justice Salisu Garba, the Administrator of the National Judicial Institute. The President of the Nigerian Bar Association, my Lords, retired Justice of the Supreme Court, Honorable Justice Eko, my Lord, the representative of the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, my Lord, the representative of the Chief Judge of the FCT High Court. Now, please, permit me to stand on existing protocol. This year's conference is remarkable for many reasons. Firstly, it is the last of the conferences I will organize as the chairman of the section on legal practice of the Nigerian Bar Association, because in a few hours' time, I will be handing over to a new executive. Secondly, the conference is not only remarkable, but it is unique because unlike previous conferences, this is the first time, at least in my tenure, and as far as I can remember in the last 2-3 tenures, that we are having a conference that is not sponsored by any government at any level in Nigeria. Put differently, we did not receive any donation from any government. Rather, we reached out to SLP council members, senior advocates of Nigeria, and other professional colleagues, as well as our friends, clients, and well-wishers of SLP for donation and sponsorship. And the response was overwhelming. My thanks to all the numerous sponsors. Outside this circle, we didn't go outside the judiciary. We had serious support from the Federal High Court, the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory, whose Chief Judge hosted us last night to a cocktail party, the President of the National Industrial Court, and so on and so forth. So it's a bar bench conference. Please, let's give ourselves a round of applause. Thirdly, it's remarkable because the 2023 elections have thrown up new leaders for the country at all levels with accompanying policy changes that have had profound effect on Nigeria and indeed our profession. It's a thing of pride that our members are in the vanguard of managing the fallout of elections for peace and stability of Nigeria, considering the country's strategic position both regionally and globally. And lastly, this conference is remarkable because of the delegates to the conference, the conferees. Without you, there will be no conference. So I thank you all for registering in spite of the harsh economic conditions that everybody and all sectors of the Nigerian nation are facing at this point in time. Please, can we give a round of applause to ourselves, the delegates? The nobility of the legal profession is the huge resource it brings to bear to resolve complex challenges at every stage of society's growth and development. This is the philosophy that underpins NBA SLP conferences. Our well-thought-out conferences answer to the needs of our existence at every time and season. In the year 2021 in Uyo, it was law, lawyers, and the next generation. In Asaba, in 2022, in fact, our host in Asaba is present here today. We welcome the former Attorney General of Delta State, Dr. Bozimo. It was wonderful, I can't forget that. In Asaba, the theme was legal practice, our reality, our future. In Abuja in 2023, we have chosen to go with the theme, legal practice without borders. To engage with global issues of transformation in the legal profession which have come upon us, the challenges thrown up by medico-legal solutions to healthcare needs, the age of artificial intelligence, the largely unexplored legal spaces, etc. Legal practice without borders interrogates the widening scope of the legal services market and lifts the veil of jurisdictional stonewalling. The roadmap for effectively dealing with contending issues in this context are in the various sessions lined up for the conference. I enjoin you to take debate, be part of the discussion, and let your views be heard. It may just be the solution the world has been waiting for. Take time to unwind. Life is for the living. And as I usually say, life is short. So you enjoy it while it lasts. From the Buhari Pottery Village to the city center, there are great places guaranteed to relax your nerves for the duration of the conference. Abuja, as the Federal Capital Territory and one of the fastest growing cities in the world, has so many opportunities that can be mined. I invite you to look keenly and take advantage of them. Build enduring partnerships, alliances, and working collaborations to impact on your legal practice in our borderless circumstances. My profound gratitude goes forth to our distinguished guests, resource persons, keynote speakers, sponsors, and members of the Executive Committee of the LSLP. I don't think I will resist the temptation to ask our distinguished members who are here present to stand up for recognition. Council members, please, of the SLP. Without the support of these gentlemen and ladies, I don't think we would have achieved anything. Their support was blessed by the Almighty God, and that is why we are where we are. We thank you very much. Please be seated. You have made this event a reality. May I especially commend the Conference Planning Committee under the very able leadership of Paul Harris Ogbole, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. My encounter with this young man has further reinforced my belief that those who say that there's nothing in a name are not right. There is something in a name. You know, if you belong to the Rotary International, Paul Harris Fellowship is the highest form of membership. And to get there, you have to make both physical, financial, and time-consuming contributions. But this man became a Paul Harris Fellow at BET. Thank you very much, Paul Harris. I now know why your parents called you Paul Harris and why you are a fellow. Now, our alternate chair was our own Tonye Krukubo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. The man who is an encyclopedia of the traditions, times, and practices of the SLP. He brought all that to bear in his alternate chairmanship, and the result is what you are saying today. The committee went the extra mile to ensure that you are more equipped for a legal practice without borders. That is after this conference. Please do not hesitate to ask any member of the executive or the conference planning committee, or indeed any member of the council of this section, for any assistance you may need in the course of the conference. Finally, we thank the conferees, delegates, resource persons, special invitees, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for honoring our invitation. Without your presence here, as I said before, there will be no conference. We thank you most profoundly. The taste of this richly prepared pudding in this nourishing conference buffet will be in the participation and listening attentively to the papers that will be delivered. I have deliberately decided to keep myself away from the topics and papers that will be presented because I don't want to usurp the functions of those who have worked tirelessly to prepare those papers. So I thank you, and I wish you a very resounding and successful conference ahead. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, sir. Please clap for my chairman as he returns to his seat. Is that the best you can do for my chairman? Thank you. Now, please clap for yourselves. We have a full house. And from where I stand, you all look handsome, beautiful, very well turned out. So please clap for yourselves again. Thank you. Now, I've been asked to make a small domestic arrangement. Please note that collection of conference bags materials has been suspended until the close of this opening ceremony. So please abide with us. Collection will resume after we end this. Now, after we had started, we were joined by two very distinguished legal practitioners. Because she's with me in Lagos, I will first urge you to welcome Mrs. Oyinko Badejo Okunsoya. For those of you who need reminding, she's the alternate chair of the 2023 NBA Annual General Conference Planning Committee. And the person who will be speaking next will remind you that she's working very hard to put together a very memorable conference. We must also welcome the inaugural chairman of the NBA section on legal practice, all the way from Ilorin, Malam Yusuf Ali, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Thank you. Now, if you have your program, you will see that we are at item 5. When I had laid the order of protocol and recognized him at the beginning, I had referred to him as the tallest man in the room. I have been corrected. He is the tallest senior advocate of Nigeria, very true, but he has owned up. He's merely 6 feet 8 inches tall. He has admitted that there are two gentlemen here who are much taller than him, much taller. The president of the NBA needs no introduction. He's well known to us. But how many of you know that he is also a pastor? That in fact he had undergone pastoral training. That probably explains the fact that he leaves everything in the hands of God and God directs his affairs. He's also a notable philanthropist. I know that for many years now, he has worked with the Kebbi State government in bringing a medical outreach to his home state. He's brought in doctors from all over the world to give succor and treatment to people. Please join me in welcoming to the podium to give his opening remarks the president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Mr. YC Mikiao, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, OON. Please continue clapping for him. Give him a tall clap until he gets here.
Thank you very much, my good friend Alex. You know, so it's true, and that we always have to leave everything in the hands of God. I have no apologies whatsoever in that respect. Absent God, I am nobody. Actually, the scripture that says that without God, you can do nothing. You can paraphrase it to say that without God, you are useless, and you have not done any harm to that scripture. Well, I have to put what has been said in context. By the special grace of God, all of you, including our teaming members of the Nigerian Bar Association, elected me into office as the 31st president of the Nigerian Bar Association. And to the glory of God, today, the 17th of July, would mark exactly 1 year that that announcement was made, and I owe that to all of you. And I say to God Almighty, thank you. I'm also grateful to each and every one of you for showing support that has brought us to this place. I join in also adopting the protocols already established, but permit me to recognize my Lord, the Honorable, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Honorable Justice Olukayode Ariwola, GCON, ably represented by my Lord, Honorable Justice Salisu Garba, the Administrator of the National Judicial Institute and former Chief Judge of the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory. My Lord, you are welcome. I also take this opportunity to recognize my Lord Justice Ejembi Eko, Justice of the Supreme Court, said to have retired, but I know my Lord is not tired. And that is why each time the bar knocks on the door of His Lordship is always prepared to come and share his wealth of experience and knowledge with us. My Lord, we are grateful for always being available to the bar. I would go on with my recognitions, but I have a grandfather in the room. I will talk about this grandfather in the course of my remarks. And just so that I don't leave you wondering, is Malam Yusuf Ali, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, the grandfather of the President of the Nigerian Bar Association. I recognize the national officers that are here, the serving national officers and the past national officers. I can spot the General Secretary of the Bar, Adesina Adegbite, almost tempted to say Senior Advocate of Nigeria, but that can also be prophetic. And if you receive a prophet in the name of a prophet, you can get the prophet's reward. And I think Chinyere is here, the Welfare Secretary. Well, I recognize all of you. And again, I recognize all the delegates to this particular conference. I thank you and I welcome you to the NBA House this morning. I'm delighted to be here. You know, as president of the Nigerian Bar Association, by the grace of God, I belong to all sections. But you know, this is my primary section. This is the section that I belong to primarily. And it's such an important section, not only to the Nigerian Bar Association in terms of feeding other sections and equipping other sections to discharge their responsibilities more effectively and efficiently. It's actually a very important section for all that we do as members of the legal profession. Those who would leave the bar to go to the bench would need the activities of this section to properly prepare them to be efficient on the bench. Those who are members of the section of business law would need also to be properly groomed by this section so that when they go there as in-house counsel, they will be able to look at what those of us who are outside working for them have done and will be able to do a proper assessment of what our colleagues have done. That is how important this section is. Those of us who are in Speedel, you may not identify what a public interest is if you don't understand what it means to be a part of this particular section. Otherwise, as it were, you could see a public interest issue walking right in front of you. You will not be able to identify it, let alone know whether it is something that you need to address by the gifts that God has given to you as a legal practitioner. By the way, as I'm speaking, I think I have spotted my Lord Honorable Justice Taiwo, retired of the Federal High Court. And you know, my Lord went to the bench from the bar. Just like Justice Kyo that is here, he went to the bench from the bar. And you know, the stint that my Lord had at the Federal High Court is one that we are very, very proud of. Very, very proud of. He really represented the bar very well. And it's a function of what I'm talking about. My Lord Honorable Justice Kyo is not doing any less. We are so proud of what their lordships are doing. And so many of their lordships that left the bar to go to the bench. And they've been doing so wonderfully well. So that is how important this section is. And I'm proud to be a member of the section of legal practice. And I thank the chairman of this section and the leadership of this section, the council members. All of them have been working tirelessly to give us a vibrant section of legal practice. The chairman already spoke about the previous conferences that we had, the themes of those conferences, and how they have helped in equipping us to continue to do what we are called to do as members of this legal profession. And the theme of this year's conference is something that actually gladdens my heart, talking about legal practice without borders. I had the chairman of the conference planning committee talk about what the Reverend Father said, and he also ended by saying that, well, even in the charging of our fees, we shouldn't create borders between one jurisdiction and the other. And I totally agree. You can charge your fees in euros, you can charge your fees in dollars. There should actually be cross-border charging of fees. There is no problem with that. But please, when you charge those fees, don't make those fees the motivation for the work that you do. That is the only difference. That is the only rider to that permission that we have given to all of us to charge fees in whatever currency. I hear that even the Chinese yuan is gaining strength. If you have Chinese clients, charge them in Chinese yuan. It doesn't matter. But make sure that what you charge, how much you charge, does not become the motivation for the service that you render to your clients. And that also now brings me about the issue of legal practice without borders. You know, our practice space has actually shrunk. It has so shrunk to the point that you can't even go to Kaduna the way we used to do back in the years to practice, because of the things that happened between Abuja, between Zuba and Kaduna. I could leave back in the years at 5 a.m. and I will arrive Kaduna before our colleagues in Kaduna will come to court, do my matter, leave Kaduna alone in the car and drive back from 8 p.m. I will arrive around 10 p.m. in the night without any fear of anything happening. You could even have a flat tire alone. You stop, bring out your jack, replace your tire, and continue without any fear of any kind of molestation. That is no longer the case. So that practice area has actually shrunk. But then again, you will discover that with us living in a global village, we now have just one standard of practice. What you do in Singapore, what is done in the New York, what is done across the world is now the place where you practice. And so it is important for us to not only realize that, but to continue to prepare ourselves, equip ourselves, and put ourselves in a place where we would continue to remain globally competitive. And the other man that has dwarfed me is just walking into the room too. You know, Alex talked about one man that is above 6'8". He just walked into the room. And I gave him a challenge yesterday. I said, well, that I have a title of TMIB after SAN. I don't know if any one of you know that. So, no. TMIB is tallest member in Aba, in addition to SAN. And I said to him, there is a record yet unbeaten that I stand as the tallest president of the NBA so far. So I threw a challenge to him. I said, that one record, I'm waiting for you to beat it. So go and do what you have to do to come here so you beat this record. So I've ceded that one to you, Doctor, and you, Folarin. They are always happy standing around me, just like I'm always pleased to stand around Mr. Ferdinand Obi. You know, so that is the place where we live today, and we have to be conscious of all of that. You know, those that preceded us decided to put Section 2 of the Legal Practitioners Act in order to protect the legal space for us. But that is the reality back then. Today, our reality is different. The practice space, within the context of the restrictions that I talked about, has been opened up globally. So what do we do? Should we continue to maintain strict application of the provisions of Section 2 of the Legal Practitioners Act? Or we open up the legal space and allow, for instance, the exchange of legal services between the UK and Nigeria? We need to strike a balance. And why do I say so? We have younger ones here that we need to prepare in order to be competitive in that space. Because by the time we begin to enter into partnership with UK, you know that there is imbalance in that partnership with respect to legal services. We are not in that place yet, much as I recognize the fact that we have to open up our legal space. We have the responsibility of protecting the legal space for the younger generation of lawyers. Otherwise, we would lose the space completely. And the jobs that are meant for us, our colleagues from outside of jurisdiction, under the guise of globalization, will come and take up those jobs, because foreign investors that are coming to invest in this country will rather come with them than come to hire us to provide those services that our colleagues would do. And you know, nobody is going to compromise standards for you. And that is why, again, I must thank the section of legal practice in that deliberate efforts in building the capacity of our colleagues. It is a realization of the fact that we would suffer defeat, even though we are the largest bar on the continent of Africa. But if we don't prepare ourselves, getting into that free trade agreement and the free trade area, it means that we would simply, with all the potentials that we have in this country, we would have succeeded only in providing market, prosperity and empowerment for our colleagues that are within the continent of Africa, if we don't prepare ourselves to take advantage of this country as the largest economy on the continent of Africa. And that is why we decided to set up an African Continental Trade Agreement working group with the terms of reference to do an assessment of that agreement. What are the opportunities available to us as members of the Nigerian legal profession within the continental area? And then to identify, areas and things that we need to do in order to create proper legislative interventions. Do we need to make laws so that we would guide the sort of jobs that throw themselves up for us to grab? Should we do it in such a way that we will protect our own space, protect those opportunities without also reneging on the agreement that we've entered? It's something that we have to do, and we have to do it consciously and deliberately. We are churning out our colleagues in thousands every year. The jobs are not there. The traditional practice is not what we do, anymore. And so we have to begin to sensitize our colleagues about the emerging areas of practice and get our colleagues to understand that you can actually also work on the go. I know that my grandfather, at some point, if you don't sit in a particular place he has provided as an office, it means that you are not working. But Grandpa, times have changed. Our colleagues now can work with their devices on their hands. We have smart, very resourceful, very energetic, intelligent colleagues that can give you a brief of argument in 2 hours using their phones. Because the authorities they need to cite, the authorities they need to research on, are accessible to them on their phones. And they don't need to sit at a particular place to deliver on that assignment. That is the generational shift that we are experiencing. And they are the best to understand the language of this global village that we are living in today. So what are we doing to make sure that our colleagues are empowered and given the opportunity to have the fullest expression of the capacities and the excellence that they carry? So that if you see them sitting in a Starbucks taking coffee and working, you don't think that they are just idling away doing nothing. But so we need to also strike a balance between that freedom that our colleagues do have because of the understanding of the importance and what technology has trusted on us, and also the discipline that comes with the older generation. And I must say this, and it is without any intention of demeaning our colleagues. You need my grandpa, Malam Yusuf Ali, to bring the resources. And what did I say, colleagues? Bring the resources. Malam Yusuf Ali, my grandfather, has the resources to support the younger generation, to bring out the best inside of them. So I would admonish that when you see people like Grandpa, without giving up what the generational traits that you have that allows you to be very free with your grandparents or with your seniors, also show respect, because that is the only way you can elicit that support, that empowerment from them. And together we will deploy the resources and the energy that you have for us to make the impact in this country. And so what have we done as the Nigerian Bar Association? By the special grace of God, we've come up with the Remuneration Order 2023, and that is supposed to help us organize ourselves. That is to help us also structure our ability to charge fees across borders. Across borders. Where is across borders? And I must always, when I see Mr. Shegun Abimbola, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, I must recognize the efforts and the commitments this gentleman made along with other members of that committee in putting this order together, which was passed and has already been gazetted and circulated. So please insist when your clients come to you that you have a regulation that tells you how to charge your fees. And that is how you begin to learn how to charge fees within the borders, and then you can extend it across the border. And like I said, the only way we can function well, when I talked about not letting money, how much you charge, be the motivation for the services that you render. I'm simply talking about being ethical and professional. And we've been bombarded, if I may use that expression, by regulatory authorities about anti-money laundering. Lawyers are the ones that are standing on our way of the fight against money laundering and counter-terrorism. That is totally false. That is totally false. We don't need someone who simply read one course somewhere, and because of the privilege of being in a regulatory agency, come to tell us about the fight against corruption. The fight against corruption is a legal fight, and only lawyers can fight that fight. And you and I are the ones that are positioned to fight that particular fight. So quit telling us that we are the ones standing on your way in the fight against corruption. We are in that fight, and to demonstrate that commitment and good faith, we decided to bring in anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing guidelines into the rules of professional conduct. That is to say, we will self-regulate ourselves in this regard. We don't need you from outside, and you can't even do that given the prevailing extant, regulations and rules. You cannot do that. So we will self-regulate ourselves to let you know that we understand these things better, and we understand the responsibility on us by reason of the privilege of being lawyers. We will self-regulate ourselves, and we would be at the vanguard of this fight against money laundering and counter-terrorism financing across this country. And so we've decided to do that. That also has been gazetted, and it's to take effect on the 1st of January 2024. We have decided to have it structured in that way so that we would first and foremost understand the guidelines, put together and put in place all the structures that we need to establish for the effective implementation of that particular rules of professional conduct. So it becomes even like a part of our lifestyle to actually fight corruption. And that is what we have demonstrated by that rule. And I must again thank the attorneys general that were part of that process. I see the Attorney General of Abia State, the immediate past Attorney General of Abia State. I see my good friend, the Attorney General of Delta State, still loading by the special grace of God. You know, all of them stood up in that committee to help in the passage of that new rules of professional conduct. I thank you most sincerely for the camaraderie that you've extended to us. I know some of them were not quite pleased, not because it is not something to do, but because they didn't quite understand it. But you know, if you know who Isaiah Bozimo is, if you know who my good friend, the Attorney General, once they pick a paper and they look at it, they see the sense in it, and immediately, so he has always been my mentor, and that is why if I'm doing well, please put your hands together for Mr. Bozimo, because he's doing a good job. And you know, finally, talking about our responsibilities as lawyers, may I take the liberty now to invite, where is Mrs. Badejo? Mrs. Badejo, please come upstage. And is Mazi Afam Osigwe around? He's not. She's been introduced earlier as the alternate chair of the annual General Conference of the Nigerian Bar Association of the Conference Planning Committee. And the theme of this year's conference is getting it right, charting the course for Nigeria's nation building. When we talk about we as lawyers having the singular privilege and honor to drive the recovery of this nation, the reformation of this nation, the reforming, the reposition of this nation, it is not out of pride. We are simply acknowledging the nature that we carry by reason of the privilege of that training. And that is why getting it right is the business of lawyers. Charting the course for Nigeria's nation building is the business of lawyers. You remember what Sir Sapara Williams said, that a legal practitioner lives for the direction of his people and for the advancement of the cause of his country. So if these two reasons are not part of why you are living, you are not a lawyer. So to find fulfillment and accomplishment, we have to embark on this responsibility. And that is why this is meant to serve as a reminder to all of us that this is our primary call, and we are not going to shirk this responsibility. Enough of the abdication. We have come back on track, and we are going to provide direction to our people. We are going to provide every support that we need to advance the cause of this nation. You are in the office, and your juniors can only see you once in a month. It's tyrannical. It is actually not discharging the responsibility that is trusted on you as a senior advocate. You are a senior advocate to provide mentorship. Who do you mentor when the person does not see you to interact with you? So, on a particular day in Sokoto, I was driving my grandfather and Mr. Didi Dodo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, from the office. We just left court, went to my office, and I was taking them to the airport. And, you know, I'm not a negligent or careless driver. I was minding my driving, but my ears were on the conversation going on between them. And then suddenly there was a little quiet in the car, and suddenly Grandpa said, "Didi, do you know that there is no foolproof judgment?" He said, "If you knock hard enough, you will find a ground of appeal. I said no word, but that struck me. And I had a bundle of record. I compiled the record. I didn't find a ground of appeal by the time I did that. I just, this omnibus ground is very useful. Oh. At least you can do that to start the process of compilation of record of appeal. I submitted the record, transmitted. I didn't know what to do. But once I heard him say so, I went back. The first thing I did was to pick that record, sat on the table, and started from page 1 of the record. Lo and behold, triggered by that conversation, that statement that was not made to me, but simply because I had genius who didn't create borders around their knowledge. And I was available to listen into that conversation. I heard something. I went back, I did something, picked my record. The first 3 pages of that record I opened, I found a ground of appeal. And that was what I used to earn the fees that I was paid. And Grandpa, I may not have sent any royalty to you, but I made money out of that. And it was from that conversation. And what did I see? The process, the originating process was signed by a law firm. I missed it. I took it for granted that that is not an important page. Let me go to the proceedings and the judgment. But because he said so, and I was available, I was also ready and open to learn, I picked it and I made money. That is why I must, in concluding my remarks, please call on our seniors. Stop building barricades around yourselves. Allow the genius to have access to you. And also pass on this knowledge freely so that they can also prosper like you have prospered. In the mighty name of Jesus now. So I thank you so much. I've seen the 3rd Vice President, Mandy, is here. Assistant Publicity Secretary is also here. The 2nd Vice President is also here. And who else did I see? The chairman of NBA Welfare Committee just walked in. And they mentioned Senator Osita. Senator Osita too should be collecting royalty from us. There is hardly any member of SLP that has not cited that case. Hope Uzodinma and who? Yeah, you made money from that. So as president, we'll create one small pause. Every fee we make, we'll drop maybe 5% to you. I thank you so very much for coming, and congratulations again. So I give you 1 minute. You want to say something about the conference?
I'll take less than a minute, Mr. President. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Just to say, personally, I'm very happy to be here. I was telling someone this morning, this is my section. This is the section that I belong to. This is the section I believe every lawyer should belong to. We shouldn't even have section on legal practice meetings at the same time as SBL and SPIDL, because everybody is first a member of SLP before anyone else. Just to say that we are working very hard day and night to make sure that we have a spectacular annual general conference, starting with our very spectacular and thought-provoking theme, Getting It Right. We are getting it right, but we can't do it without you all. So we are counting on your support, both physical, financial, attendance in person and virtually, and particularly your prayers. And in Jesus' name, we'll get it right. Thank you very much.
I thank you very much for this opportunity. I welcome you once again, and I know that the sessions are going to be exciting. It's going to be an unfolding of all it takes for us to actually continue our legal practice without borders. And as we also get it right as a nation, I see Nigeria being turned around, the fortunes of this country being turned around for the benefit of we all.
Thank you, sir. I think he deserves an appropriate round of applause. For those who practice in the north, the Hausa language has some words that have both male and female genders in them. And one of such words is mekiao. Mekiao actually means beautiful, handsome, appealing. Sometimes it's used to describe good, as an adjective to describe your good work, or as an advice for somebody who does something right. So mekiao, for us today, can appropriately stand out as one who adds beauty to the bar. Please put your hands together for him. In 1881, probably Aristotle was writing about this era, and he said, whatever your shortcomings as an executive, lawyer, senior advocate, or aspiring president of the bar, if you have a tall president that you can look up to, then you can truly practice law without borders. Please clap for the president.
Thank you. We will be back with that. But meanwhile, allow me to introduce a few more distinguished legal practitioners who have joined us. We have many former honorable attorney generals in our midst. I did see Mr. Tanko Asang, Senior of Nigeria, the former immediate past Attorney General of Cross River State. Please join me in welcoming him. Thank you. And of course, the NBA president had recognized Mr. Uweme Biom Imo Nwoko, Senior of Nigeria, the past Attorney General of Akwa Ibom State, who's also a life bencher. Join me in recognizing him. Please clap for him, make him welcome. Thank you. Now I am under instructions to invite up. We'll tweak the program slightly. As you all know, this conference is to be declared open by the Honorable Chief Justice of Nigeria, Honorable Justice Olukayode Ariwola Senior, Chief Justice of Nigeria, GCON. Now, he is not with us physically, but he has sent a very able representative. Please join me at this point in inviting up on stage Honorable Justice Salisu Garba, retired, the Administrator of the National Judicial Institute, to declare open this conference on behalf of the Chief Justice of Nigeria. Please continue clapping until he gets here.
Let me start by apologizing on behalf of my Lord, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, for his inability to be here in person to deliver his welcome address, to deliver his keynote address and declare this conference open. This is due to the circumstances beyond his control, but my Lord ordered me to be here and present his address and declare the workshop open. So I start. My Lord Honorable Ejembe Eko, JSC retired, and other my lords here present, the President of the Nigerian Bar Association, Mr. Yakubu Chonaka Mekiao, SANON, the keynote speaker of the conference, Professor Peter Aka, SANOPR, members of the national executives of the NBA, all the Lion Senior Advocate of Nigeria here present, invited guests, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure and deep sense of humility I stand before my esteemed learned colleagues and area of distinguished legal luminaries that have come from different parts of the country to give a goodwill message and declare this 2023 edition of the NBA section on the Legal Practice Annual Conference open. This is indeed a rare privilege and honor that I will never take for granted. This conference, which is literally attracts creme de la creme of our noble profession, is notably one of the major flagship events that often emulate and enrich the mental appetite as legal practitioners and judicial officers. As someone who has a considerable affinity with academia, I can convincingly assure you that at the end of this conference, you will be satisfactorily paired with portfolio of intellectual menu that will certainly broaden your horizon and place you far ahead of your contemporaries. The Nigerian Bar Association that I know is always a step ahead of other professional bodies, both in Nigeria and elsewhere. It is known and respected for always being outspoken, proactive, decisive, and above all, vocal in opposing illegality and oppression in our society. NBA is a great name among the professional bodies in Nigeria that command attention and uncommon respect because we have worked assiduously to earn the distinguishing reputation that has transcended several decades. For this very important reason, I would like to join all of us here today to endeavor to continuously hold the banner of the honesty, transparency, integrity in all we do, especially as we work for our client and fatherland in various capacities. This will not only help us to live a life of honor and dignity, but also eat the legal profession in gold. I must let us know that our profession is our pride, and our pride resonates from the image and personality we communicate to those around us in our daily professional and social interaction. In timing of this conference, it is germane too in view of the hostile cloud that belittling the horizon. Virtually everything in this country seems to be on the speedy push to surface. The earlier the men of good conscience and leaders of thought intervene, the better for us and our corporate existence. We cannot stand aloof and watch things deteriorate further than this. We in the legal profession have a vital role to play as conscious of society and forebearers of the quality, fairness, justice, law, and order. There is a great deal of distrust among various ethnic nationalities in the country, so much so that every little issue or misunderstanding is hastily given ethnic and religious correlation. This is not good for our growth and development of our nation. We, the God-chosen people of the noble profession, are seriously required scope from the rebel voice of our nobility and prosper solution to this myriad of problems so that this great country, used to be the envy of other nations of the world, can begin to occupy a pride of place among the community of nations. We cannot afford to watch on the sideline while things get awry. The countries which today we find leading the community of nations had long ago shattered the circles that kept them halted and prevented innovation. As legal practitioners and judicial officers, research and development have been aiding us in bringing into our new frontiers in the application of law in different situations and circumstances. So the same should have to be skillfully engaged to keep us moving with the same pace of the world. If we do not graft on the essential ingredients of development, we will continue to lag behind the world. It is proven that those who remain against change and improvement never achieve anything. I'm an ardent believer in continuous improvement. As iron had to bear the rigors of fire and hammer, but turn into the steel, humans need to step outside of their comfort zone to chisel away the dust of self with shine upon their persons. We all know that the world will live only. We all know that we all know that the world will live only. Remember who lead from the front and set strength for others to illuminate. So as men of noble profession, we should never be afraid to set sail through uncharted authorities as long as our knowledge is deep and our skills are equally tested. Nonetheless, I have no doubt that this conference will take us through the right meal to achieve great exploits and dictate the space for our dear country. I must sincerely congratulate our hardworking president of the MBA, Mr. Yakubu Maikel, SAN, the chairman MBA section of the legal practice, Chief Penant of the SAN, and the chairman SPL 2023 Conference Planning Committee, Chief Paul Harris of the SAN, and the entire members of the planning committee for this event who put in tremendous effort in packaging the program that has all the trapping of zest and glamour. On this note, my lords, distinguished invited guests, learned colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I now formally declare this conference open, and I thank you very much for the audience and wish you fruitful deliberation. I thank you.
Now, whilst he's returning to his seat, let me quickly recognize serving national officers. We do have with us, I recognize the General Secretary of the NBA. We have with us the first Vice President, Mrs. Linda Bala. We have the second Vice President, Mr. Chukwuemeka Clement Ugo. We have the third Vice President, Mrs. Mandy Asagba. We also have the Welfare Secretary, Ms. Chinyere Obasi. And of course, we have my favorite, the Assistant Public Secretary, Mr. Charles Ajiboye. Now, I'm authorized to inform you that we do have an exhibition stand outside of the auditorium. We have a number of exhibitors, booksellers, law outfitters. We also have 2 medical stands. And the conference, in partnership with Nordica, is offering free medical tests. I'm proud to say that I had mentioned that I'm a past chairman of the NBA Lagos branch, and I see seated here with us 2 powerful former chairmen of the NBA Lagos branch. First, my predecessor in office. I was secretary when he was chairman. Now, Honorable Justice Taiwo O. Taiwo, retired of the Federal High Court, TOT. And of course, my successor in office as chairman, Mr. Chukwuka Ikuazom, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Thank you. Now, I would now like to invite up to the podium to give us his goodwill message, Senator Osita Izunaso, serving Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Please join me in welcoming him as he comes upstage to give us his goodwill message.
Thank you very much. My Lord, the Honorable Chief Justice of Nigeria, ably represented, our chief host, the NBA National President. I can't find him again, but I must tell this short story about the NBA President. When we met last year in Lagos at the bar conference, I had a photograph with him, which one newspaper published front page. And since then, I've been battling to convince people that I'm not short. I've had a lot of people calling me to say, distinguished, I didn't know you are this short. I said, no, look at the photograph well. If you look at it well, you will know that it is the bar president that is too tall. So that is why when I saw him today, I had to respect myself. I didn't want to have any photograph with him today. But having said that, I'm actually delighted to be here today to be part of this MBA session on legal practice. This year's theme is quite apt. It is something that I must encourage all of us as legal practitioners to look deep on this year's theme. When you say that the theme of this year's conference is
legal practice without borders. It reminds me of what they normally say in church when people are getting married. They will say, what God have joined together, let no man put asunder. But they don't add what God have joined together, let the couple themselves not put asunder. The couples are already exonerated, but are talking about no man or woman should put asunder. When we are talking about legal practice without borders, we should be advising ourselves as legal practitioners. Let us ourselves not create the borders that we're talking about. A situation where very senior legal practitioners will not even want to interact with the junior ones. Are they not creating borders already within the profession? A situation where some people are planning to now begin to charge charges in foreign currencies, planning, because I'm not sure they will do that. Are they not creating borders already within the profession? If they're not creating borders, why are they contemplating even charging in foreign currency? Why are you charging a senatorial case higher than that of House of Assembly? Are you not creating borders? If you invite a senior advocate to represent you, you say, what Senate matter? I don't want to give you because you have an idea of what the fees will look at. Then if you are eventually contested for governorship, even if it's an attempt at the level of primaries, and you try to go to court, they say, but you want to be a governor. We should charge you like someone that wants to be a governor. Are you not creating borders in the profession? So this particular team is very apt. For us in National Assembly, it will also resonate with us in the sense that we should try to make laws at any point in time that will promote the unity of this country, laws that will promote national cohesion, laws that will also promote the rule of law. That is why I'm happy to be here today, and also to look forward to the next bar conference, which theme is also even more important than this, because that theme is talking about getting it right. And how do we get it right in Nigeria? It's going to be our collective responsibility in getting it right in Nigeria. It is not just that of politicians or businessmen or students or civil society people. Everybody is involved if we want to get it right in our country. So I'd like to thank the organizers of this team because they have done a good job. And I'm happy that Mr. President of the Bar have also reminded me about the Uzodinma Ezenaso case. And I'm planning for the royalty, because if we are paid royalty for that matter, I'm sure we're going to make a lot of money. But for your information, the two parties have long resolved and are working together today for the overall development of their state. So having said this, I don't want to pry into what our resource persons will say on this matter. I will only thank all of you for coming and to let you know that I'm also delighted to be here today. We have an array of very rich resource persons. And it was Obi SAN that said the taste of the food is the eating, isn't it? So, bon appetit. Thank you and God bless us.
Can we clap? Can we clap to celebrate the distinguished senator? The president is coming to say a few words, I'm sure.
Thank you very much. You know, earlier we thanked those that went ahead of us to give us a befitting place like this. And we are honored and privileged to have past President Austin Alege, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, CFR, in the House. And if you understand why I have to come up here to recognize him, you will do better than what you have done. because it was during the administration of my big brother, Austin Alege, Senior Advocate, CFR, the one that has demonstrated that you cannot be too young to be wealthy, that as president of the Nigerian Bar Association, that this building was completed and commissioned. Sir, I stand here on behalf of the bar to thank you for the leadership that you brought to bear, for the leadership and the counsel that you continue to give to us as members of the Nigerian Bar Association, for the graciousness and the benevolence of your heart. You are one senior. Earlier, without you being in the room, I talked about how seniors should open up themselves for juniors to have access to them. I've mentioned other examples, but you are another example of such a senior that is so gracious at heart, large at heart, and would accommodate juniors not only to come and learn from your wealth of experience, but to share from the wealth of that fat account that you have always kept. And I know that as we progress into the future of this profession, there is one account in dollars that you haven't touched in a long while. And the chairman of the conference planning committee said that we should explore cross-border charging of fees. So we would cross from here to that place where the account is domiciled to also touch that one as well for the benefit of the bar. I want to use this opportunity to thank you again and to welcome you to this conference and continue to appreciate you for that selfless service that you offer to the Nigerian Bar Association. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Worthy President, indeed. Thank you. Well, distinguished participants, I've been told that it is not easy for those at the back to hear because there's noise, and I want to appeal to us to just calm down. The next item I want to introduce the very important one, and I do a simple exercise before I take it. I'll just do this. I'll just count 1 to 3 and say go and expect us to clap once. Is this something we can do? Thank you. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I didn't say go. Can we do it one more time? 1, 2, 3. I still didn't say go. We'll try the last time. 1, 2, 3, go. See, what that says is that for the average human being, you have to tell him something at least 3 times for him to comprehend. The person I'm about to introduce has only one opportunity, one important opportunity to tell us very important issues around the keynote. So as I introduce him, I'll want us to pay rapt attention because we need to be able to hear everything that he wants to say. So distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our keynote speaker is one who has been variously described. In one of his papers, he had written before now about this subject, and he said, in the realm of justice, the boundaries are mere illusions. The law transcends boundaries and embraces all of humanity. He has been described as a distinguished senior advocate of Nigeria, a research professor of law. His work is laced with exemplary expertise, groundbreaking research, and content of advance towards the advancement of the field of law. He has also he has earned a law degree with a top university and a PhD that he focuses on a very key area that we're talking about today. He is also committed to teaching. He's a respected faculty member at the Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies, and he's also authored many groundbreaking research works, presented papers both locally and internationally, and he has also done life-changing presentations. He has also broad understanding of law and has developed specialization in some key areas. Besides being a law professor, his research interests include mining law and policy, environmental law, infrastructure law, international economic law, international criminal law, and and justice sector reforms, where he is also widely published. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our keynote speaker had a speaking engagement in the US, but they canceled it because of this conference. Our keynote speaker had a short notice, but he still is prepared to deliver this. Our keynote speaker missed a flight, but he said he must be here. So distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our applause is not only to celebrate him, but to appreciate him for the sacrifice of being here today. Let us therefore welcome Professor Peter Akpe, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, OFR. Please put your hands together for him as he comes up to speak to us today from his heart. One who's specially respected as a research fellow, who has also mentored many students in the field of law. Please, let's keep clapping for him.
My Lord, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, ably represented by the Administrator of the National Judicial Institute, my Lord, Honorable Justice Ejembi Eko, retired Justice of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, my Lord, the Chief Judge of the Federal Capital Territory, the President of Nigerian Bar Association, Mr. M.C. Mekeo, OON, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and by extension, other presidents of the bar here present. I recognize the chair of the section on legal practice, Chief Ferdinand Obi, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and by extension, all other senior advocates of Nigeria present at this conference, distinguished executive members of the section on legal practice, attorneys generals here present, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Let me start by apologizing to the House. It's not out of disrespect for this section and our colleagues. In the last 3 days, I have been in the village trying to settle some traditional issues. And I thought I could get into Abuja quite early this morning, but I couldn't do that for unforeseen circumstances. So by the time I got to the Sani Abacha barracks, I was already being called that I needed to be here. So I couldn't go home to change. That is why I'm appearing the way I'm appearing. So please forgive me. It was not my intention to appear like this, please. Now, having said that, I want to quickly go to the subject matter of today's address, that is the keynote address. I would like to say that I'm delighted at the invitation to serve as a keynote speaker at the annual conference of the Nigerian Bar Association section on legal practice, holding in the iconic federal capital city of Abuja. I commend the executives of the section for choosing to focus on the theme, legal practice without borders, at this conference. I consider the theme apt and contemporary, given the wave of globalization and demands for liberalization of legal services across the globe. I have, in line with the theme, taken the liberty to speak on towards multi-jurisdictional legal practice, issues, challenges, and prospects. The objective is to examine the utility of multi-jurisdictional legal practice in the context of globalization and issues and challenges it poses for lawyers in Nigeria and indeed the developing world, and the prospects of achieving such a borderless legal practice environment. I intend to proffer some suggestions that we could consider in our quest to achieve a borderless legal practice environment that works for all lawyers in the northern as well as in the southern hemispheres. So my responsibility this morning as keynote speaker, I believe, is to tease out the issues so that the various speakers that will come after me will probably drill down on some of the issues in much detailed manner. So what I have tried to do this morning is to tease out issues that I think we need to consider and make preparations for if indeed we intend to have a borderless legal practice as being advocated under the theme. So I've started by trying to explain what I mean by multi-jurisdictional legal practice. And I said that to engender greater appreciation and set the tone for the ensuing discourse, it is pertinent to make a conceptual clarification, especially with regard to the concept of multi-jurisdictional legal practice. The concept has been defined as, quote, the delivery of legal services in jurisdictions other than where a lawyer is formally admitted to practice, end of quote. It is thus a situation where lawyers are allowed to practice beyond their geographical and legal boundaries. Geographical and legal boundaries in this sense is that geographical is like Nigeria, for instance, and then legal boundaries would be where you are admitted to practice. In some countries, admission to practice is from state to state. And in some countries, if you qualify, you practice across the whole state. So when we talk about multi-jurisdictional practice here, we are talking about practice across both geographical and legal boundaries. Multi-jurisdictional law practice envisages a situation where a lawyer licensed to practice in one state that we can describe as the home jurisdiction is able to provide legal services in another state, which we may call the host jurisdiction. So here we are dealing with home jurisdiction and host jurisdiction. Home jurisdiction is where the lawyer is licensed to practice, and then host jurisdiction is the jurisdiction where he's providing that legal service. Excuse me. This is possible where a lawyer physically travels from the home jurisdiction to the host jurisdiction to offer services, or is able to do so by other means, such as leveraging information and communication technology tools, such as video conferencing, virtual hearing services, and so on. So, multi-jurisdictional legal practice, or cross-border legal practice, or indeed borderless legal practice are concepts that have been used interchangeably. And I believe that when you look at the core meaning of these concepts, you would find that they mean one and the same thing, i.e., multi-jurisdictional legal practice, cross-border legal practice, and borderless legal practice. In this regard, I find comfort in the definition offered by one of our very distinguished attorneys, George Itomi, who defines cross-border legal practice as, quote, the provision of legal services by lawyers to clients outside their national jurisdictions, end of quote. So if you examine this definition profiled by George Itomi closely with the one I gave in terms of multi-jurisdictional legal practice, you'll find that essentially they're the same, and you probably won't find any difference in it. Multi-jurisdictional legal practice, or borderless legal practice, as others may want to call it, has been made possible by advances in transport infrastructure and technology, which have made interstate travel relatively easier. Improvements in information and communication technology, ICT, which has revolutionized communication across national frontiers and made such communications real time. Audiovisual communication is possible today because of these advances in information and communication technology, thus making it possible for lawyers to sit in one particular jurisdiction and be able to offer their services in another jurisdiction without being physically present in such jurisdictions. Also, globalization and trends in economic integration, which has led to the demand for legal services by multinational corporations that carry out business across national frontiers, regions, and continents, have also engendered the need for multi-jurisdictional practice. Also, the liberalization of legal services has impacted on easing regulatory requirements to practice across regional economic blocks and admission to practice in many jurisdictions. For instance, based on the EU directive, EU lawyers can practice in member states within the EU economic bloc without the requirement of registration. The UK, for instance, allows foreign lawyers to render services to their clients in respect of matters concerning their home jurisdictions, and where they meet the requirement of residency and practice, they could also seek additional authorization to practice both foreign and UK law as applicable, thereby making them multi-jurisdictional firms. Multi-jurisdictional legal practice issues and challenges. Now, I've tried to explain the concept of multi-jurisdictional practice. I've also talked about the issues the circumstances that have engendered the call for this borderless legal practice and so on. Now, I would like to proceed to look at it in the sense that we believe, or I would like to think that there's an appeal to have this multi-jurisdictional practice going on across the globe. But for us to be able to do that, I think there are some issues that we need to look at closely. There are some challenges we need to address, and that is what I intend to do in this part of my paper. Multi-jurisdictional legal practice is no doubt appealing. The fact that qualification in one jurisdiction would enable a lawyer to practice in another jurisdiction, either with registration or without registration, is certainly a welcome development. It provides enhanced opportunities for lawyers with the requisite skills and competence to make them competitive. It also provides opportunities for law firms that offer specialized legal services, such as lawyers who specialize in oil and gas, intellectual property law, energy, natural resources, construction and infrastructure law, to venture to other jurisdictions where their expertise is required without hindrance. It is, however, important to note that despite the highlighted advantages, some issues or challenges need to be considered and addressed to make the laudable objective realizable. These include A, regulatory requirements governing admission to practice. Let's look at regulatory requirements governing admission to practice. Despite the move towards multi-jurisdictional legal practice, many jurisdictions maintain strict requirements for admission to practice, which operate to either exclude or limit the ability of foreign lawyers to practice within such jurisdictions. The point being made here is that, yes, we want to achieve borderless legal practice, but the truth of the matter is that in many jurisdictions, you still have such restrictions, rules that ensure that only lawyers called to a particular jurisdiction can practice within that jurisdiction. So, as aptly noted by one learned writer, and I quote him, he says that developing technologies and our increasingly mobile and global society enhance the logistical ease and potential benefits of a multi-jurisdictional practice. However, inconsistent licensing and unauthorized practice of law rules and the fundamental need to protect privilege and privacy may limit its usefulness and efficiency. End of quote. The learned author here is already identifying some constraints to this idea of having a borderless legal practice. He talks exactly about issues of inconsistent licensing rules. He talks about unauthorized practice of law rules, and also talks about the need to protect privilege and limit that all of this combined, they limit the usefulness and efficiency of the borderless legal practice we are talking about. The point being made here is that these are real issues that we must consider and deal with if we are going to achieve success in this regard. This means that regional economic communities such as ECOWAS must harmonize admission to practice rules to make it possible for lawyers to practice easily across jurisdictions. We are talking about, our region here is ECOWAS. To what extent can lawyers in Nigeria practice across the ECOWAS region without having to face the requirements of registration or face other limiting factors or admission to practice rules that are existing in the economic bloc? The point being made is that it is time we begin to look at how we can harmonize these requirements. If we do harmonize these requirements, then we will be like the EU, for instance, where once you qualify in one jurisdiction, you can just practice across the economic bloc without necessarily having to go and to face other requirements of registration, as the case may be. The second issue I think that we should look at closely and which would affect our quest for borderless legal practice is legal education and training. Legal education and training. In this regard, I believe that the pedagogy that prepares lawyers for practice remains diverse and unharmonized across several jurisdictions. The requirement, legal training, the subjects you offer in many of these jurisdictions are not the same. That is the point I'm trying to make. So without harmonizing this, it becomes quite difficult to ensure that this happens. For instance, foreign lawyers who want to practice in Nigeria, apart from meeting other criteria, are required to audit core courses in Nigerian, under Nigerian law to make them eligible to practice here. And I believe these rules also exist in some other jurisdictions. So if the legal education and training is not also harmonized, it becomes quite difficult for a lawyer from Ghana to come into Nigeria and practice freely, particularly on subject matters that are core Nigerian law subjects that they have no previous knowledge or study, as the case may be. So I have said here that without harmonizing standards regulating law practice or subjects to be taught, such as ethics, rules of professional conduct, and so on, it might be difficult. And when we talk about ethics here, it's very, very important, given the way ethical standards are actually enforced across the globe. Those of you who are familiar with the American system, you'll find out that lawyers are debarred almost every week. In the UK, it's almost the same thing. In Nigeria, sometimes it takes 2 years before you will hear that a lawyer has been derobed for unprofessional conduct and so on. Now, if we are going to carry such attitude to other jurisdictions to practice, certainly there's going to be a problem. So we need to begin to address ethical issues, rules of professional conduct issues that will not just limit us here, that will also enable us to practice as global lawyers without facing these constraints. Another issue or challenge that I would like us to look at is the different legal systems and legal traditions across the globe. Two legal systems predominate the legal landscape. These are the common law and the civil law systems or traditions. In addition, there are hybrid systems such as the Roman Dutch with varying peculiarities or nuances. For instance, the role of a trial lawyer in an accusatorial system will be different from the one in an inquisitorial system. Multi-jurisdictional legal practice, especially concerning legal representation and advocacy, will be severely hampered by these differences in approach and procedure. There is therefore the need, again here, for harmonization of systems such as we have, and I give a good example. What we have as a good example is the statute of the International Criminal Court, for instance, the Rome Statute of International Criminal Court of 1998, where they have delicately harmonized common law and civil law requirements so that lawyers practicing in that jurisdiction are actually able to do so without much difficulty. So time has come for us to begin to look at ways in which this harmonization can take place to make it possible for common law lawyers and those who are trained under the civil law system to be able to practice without let or hindrance. The fourth concern I have has to do with border control and immigration laws. The ability to practice law across jurisdictions depends on the ease of border control and immigration laws. Jurisdictions where visa issuance takes a long time will undoubtedly be disadvantaged, and lawyers in such jurisdictions will be unable to travel quickly across jurisdictions. If any of you have tried in the last few months to get a date for an American visa, you will understand the point I'm making. If your client requires your services and it is not within your jurisdiction, you have to travel, then it means that you must meet visa requirements to be able to enter the jurisdiction where your services are to be provided. Now, where these rules become quite difficult, where you probably won't even get a date for a visa interview in 6 months, then it creates a difficulty for the lawyers concerned. Now, when you look at that vis-a-vis lawyers from the southern hemisphere, particularly developing countries like Nigeria, vis-a-vis their counterparts in Europe and America, you will see the difference or the divergence in practice. It's very easy for a lawyer in the US to move from the United States to the UK without any form of restrictions. Sometimes it's even easier for them to come to Africa here because they could get visa on arrival, as it were. But it's not the same for lawyers that are in Nigeria going across other jurisdictions. They have strict visa controls, strict border control issues, immigration laws that they need to comply with. So I have said here that while the trend is for certain jurisdictions to offer visa on arrival services, not all nationals qualify for this service. Experience has shown that holders of passports from the Northern Hemisphere enjoy visa on arrival services in more countries than their counterparts from the Southern Hemisphere. This will confer a competitive advantage to such lawyers to the detriment of those who do not enjoy such privileges. The fifth issue I thought I should also raise is transportation and ICT infrastructure. Travel is made easy when there are multimodal means of transportation. Lawyers practicing in jurisdictions with rail, sea, and air links can move freely across jurisdictions to attend meetings and offer legal services. Multi-jurisdictional legal practice will thrive with integrated transportation and ICT infrastructure. This is where developing countries with relatively poor ICT infrastructure are disadvantaged. The point being made here is that it's very easy where if you are in a place like the United Kingdom or the US or indeed other European countries, for you to really do, if you like, a Zoom meeting easily. And you can advise your clients, you can attend meetings, you can even do what we call virtual hearings today. But in Nigeria here, for instance, we have difficulties. Sometimes you are in an international meeting or you are attending an international conference and you have logged in from Nigeria. Within a few minutes, you no longer hear what they are saying. Speakers from Nigeria often face the problem. It is only from here that you hear people asking, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me?" As guess maybe. So these are things that create a lot of difficulty for lawyers in terms of making use of ICT. Our ICT infrastructure is not developed enough to put us in that competitive position with our colleagues from other jurisdictions. Perhaps this is one of the things that the NBA will want to continue to look at to see how ICT infrastructure can be improved. All those beautiful things we talk about, borderless legal service of staying in one jurisdiction without necessarily traveling to render legal services in another jurisdiction can only be possible where your ICT infrastructure is very good. Where your ICT infrastructure is not very good, then physical travel will become quite important. And again, that creates a problem for jurisdictions such as Nigeria. With no national airline, with very few of our airlines being able to take advantage of the bilateral air services agreement between Nigeria and other countries, it becomes a problem. British Airways flies into Abuja every day and Lagos. There's no Nigerian airline that I know of that flies into UK, into London, or Gatwick, or Stansted, as the case may be. That is a problem. That's the problem. Emirates was flying to Nigeria, Etihad was flying to Nigeria every day. By the time which Air Peace, yes, was able to make it to the United Arab Emirates, they didn't give them a spot in Dubai or Abu Dhabi. They gave them a place in Sharjah. Sharjah is the place they gave them. So when you look at all of this, there's no competitive advantage for us if we are going to engage in this. So the point I'm making generally is that borderless practice is good. It's something that we should aspire to. But lawyers in the Southern Hemisphere, particularly developing countries, we need to contend with more to be able to put us in a position where we can actively compete with our colleagues across the other jurisdictions. So like I said, I'm only teasing out the issues to enable you to have a closer discussion or detailed discussion during the plenary sessions. So by way of conclusion, I would like to say, ladies and gentlemen, that multi-jurisdictional legal practice is the future of the legal practice. It will make legal services more accessible and competitive. Clients can retain the services of competent lawyers of their choice, irrespective of jurisdiction that they are admitted to practice. The following recommendations, however, are pertinent to enable this to happen. This includes harmonization of or liberalization of rules relating to admission to practice, the pedagogy, and ethics. Others are integration of the dominant legal systems or tradition, that is, the common law and the civil law traditions, upscaling of transportation and ICT infrastructure, and harmonization of border controls and immigration laws across the regional economic communities and across the globe. I thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Prof. I think we can do better than that. Thank you. All good things must come to an end. So we are close to the end of this program. But I'll be failing in my duty if I failed to recognize a few more distinguished legal practitioners who have joined us. Now, I see sitting very quietly, my boss, former president of the Nigerian Bar Association. Of course, I'm referring to another person than Mr. Augustine Alege, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, CFR. Please join me in welcoming him, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Also, we have Professor Hayatu Chiroma, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, the DG of the Nigerian Law School. He's been with us for a couple of hours now. Thank you. And I did aspire, sitting very quietly, the chairman of the NBA Welfare Committee, Chief Emeka Ozwani, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Thank you, sir. Now, please join me in welcoming upstage Professor Augustine Robert Agom of the Section of Legal Practice to give the vote of thanks. He's the secretary of the section. Please join me in making him welcome. Are you tired? Thank you. Thank you.
My Lord, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, very ably represented here today by the administrator of the NJI, members of the bench and bar, friends. If you look at your time now, the time is far spent, so I need to be very, very brief. Kindly permit me to adopt the set procedure already set. My brief this afternoon is a very simple one, and it's simply to vote the appreciation of the section on legal practice to all who may be here today. And I hereby do so. Conferees, you are the reason why this event today is holding. On behalf of the section, I thank all conferees, all resource persons, our sponsors, the SLP family, the NBA family, and particularly the guest speaker, the keynote addresser, for the 6 issues that he has raised. These are the issues that the sessions will engage with. Thank you very, very much for doing a wonderful job. I also want to seize this opportunity to thank my Lord, Justice Ejembi Ekor, the iconic philosopher of Nigeria's legal jurisprudence. My Lord, thank you very much for making it to this conference. Distinguished conferees, ensure that your voice is heard in the course of this conference. Ensure that your presence is equally felt and your beauty beheld as well, so that at the end of the conference, we will all retire back better equipped. You have heard today that we can charge our fees without borders. Now, the various sessions in this conference would enable you, equip yourself to render services without borders, to earn these fees without borders. So ensure that you do not miss out on any of the sessions because the sessions are loaded. To our members who are here to update their registration, please update your registration with the section on legal practice. For those who have not registered yet, endeavor to do so. All members of the NBA are automatic members of the SLP, so just endeavor to update your registration. In all, I wish you a very fruitful conference. Thank you for coming, and God bless.
Thank you. Thank you for thanking us. Now, we should thank Professor for thanking us. So thank you, Professor. Please join me in recognizing Mrs. Mianaya SN, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who has joined us. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Now, we will end with group photographs. And I've been asked to invite the members of the front row to please come forward and join the keynote speaker, the past president of the Nigerian Bar Association, council members of SLP, distinguished jurists, former honorable attorney generals, to please come forward for group photograph as we end.